Oh, hello.
Yeah, sorry for the delay, a few technical difficulties.
No, that's all right.
How are you? Thank you for having me on.
No, it's all right. No, thank you for agreeing to be part of this. Right then, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Andy. I was in a band called Ex-cathedra. I was in a few bands before that, but they were never known. So, and then I started Suicide Bid. I kind of morphed from Ex-cathedra into Suicide Bid. Decided I didn't want to go on the road because of one or two bad traffic accidents. And life on the road's quite arduous, if that's the best description. So, to be honest, I started a ska band just for fun, like the specials, like Madness. I wanted to do a sort of ska band after in the COVID years. I wanted to get people up dancing and kind of out again and socialise. So I just wanted to do a ska cover band of all my favourite old ska reggae songs, and it kind of didn't happen. So it was kind of turned into what I'm doing now, Bullitz 23, which is me and a little gang of people. So yeah, some in London, some in Italy, and there were some in America, but yeah, cut it down to just hopefully the three guys in Italy and three guys in England.
Nice. So, where are you now? Are you in the UK? Are you over in?
Yeah, I'm in the south of Italy. I'm praying that I get enough money to move here next year. I've married my wife and she lives here and obviously want to live with her. So putting into action to permanently get a residency here and move here for like spring next year, hopefully full time.
Okay,
If
so
that all works out.
so you can have the two separate bands then. So
Not really. The guys in Italy are just helping. Basically, I'm really looking at Tris and Shay and this new drummer guy. Hopefully, become a band. That's the dream. To be honest, I've done so many bands that I'm kind of like self-proclaimed boss, so that I can make clear from the beginning that I just want to keep the band going. If other people don't want to do it, if they
yeah,
want a break, if they can't do it, we get a replacement just for that gig or tour. I want to keep it going. I've been in so many bands where the drummer leaves, then he wants you to change the name of the band, or like in the last band, Ex-cathedra, the founding guitarist left, and he gave me the blessing to carry on. But then about a year and a half, 2 years down the line, he let everybody know he wasn't happy, and that's not what I want to do. I don't want to make people unhappy, so
yeah.
I had to sort of drop the Ex-cathedra moniker and start afresh with Suicide Bid with a sort of new direction. But this time, to be honest with you, I'm addicted to playing gigs and addicted to punk, so it's my only addiction still, that and yoga. And I got to keep it doing. I'm a selfish bugger, I suppose, but I want to keep it going. So if somebody has to leave or get pissed off, then I don't have to split the band and go, oh God, what am I doing now? And plus, the first time ever I'm actually writing the songs, the lyrics, and the guitar. I only know four chords, so everything sounds the same. But you know,
It's
they're
punk
my
rock,
songs.
isn't it? It's punk rock.
I think any more than three chords is jazz. To be honest, I mean one or two chords is probably, but
So you're a jazz band now if you're doing four chords.
jazz punk. Well, actually, the drummer and the bass player here are jazz musicians, so I can't stand jazz, but I'm playing it.
Do you want me to cut that bit out?
No, that's all right. I've been honest. I've been honest. Yeah. They are actually jazz musicians. They're really good musicians, and they're just helping me out in the studio. I've got to pay them. I've got to pay for all the studio. So if it was a real band, I hope one day the cost would be shared, and I don't have to pay for everything all the time. So because I'm Scottish, my mum passed away. It'll be 2 years this January, and she left me enough money to pay off my mortgage in Italy that my wife had, and I've spent most of it went on tour, and paid for absolutely everything for that European tour. So it's slowly dwindling. Hopefully, I've invested enough of it to keep the band going for as long as I'm alive and get
Okay.
enough gigs. There's not money in music sales, so I have to do merchandise and ask for bigger fees and play as much as I can. See if I can make my bread and butter off it.
So it says on your profile that you went to Eton. Is that- I thought it might be a joke. I thought I'd question it because, yeah, a mutual friend of ours, I won't mention any names, went to a very high private school I thought, well, maybe you did.
I could lie and say yes, darling, but no, I didn't. I don't know. I sometimes, when I get brought up with punk rock, I know I was a very, very angry little child, but there was always some fun element with punk. And I don't like to lose that. I like to have a little bit of fun still. And I tell jokes and I've got a really bad sense of humour, but yeah, I was just being funny on that profile, to be honest. I didn't go to Eton. I went to Guruk High School in Scotland, Inverclyde, and I had a terrible time.
Oh, I think a lot of us did actually. I mean, I'm neurodiverse, and I wasn't diagnosed until much later, and it did have an impact on me very much.
In what way? Sorry, ADHD perchance, or what way?
I think I've always suspected ADHD, but my official diagnosis is dyspraxia with dyslexia.
Okay, I've got dyslexia and I've got my certificate for ADHD, so they certified me with it
Yeah.
in Maudsley Hospital in London.
So
They
I've
said
not
I was the most ADHD adult they'd ever met. So
really.
really,
The police say that about me. Everybody says it, and I'm just like, I've not. Because when I got my diagnosis for dyslexia and dyspraxia, this was about, oh my gosh, a long time ago. I don't want to say how long ago, but they wouldn't, at that time, they wouldn't assess me for ADHD because I wasn't in the right age bracket. I was in my late 20s at the time. So I could go for the right to choose. I should do that. I should do it.
I found because I was always like punk was kind of associated with alcohol and speed. I don't know if it still is, but I found that speed slowed me down, and that's what I found out. Ritalin was it's kind of like a derivative of an amphetamine. So, but when I wanted to take it, I actually get loads of things done, and my concentration was brilliant, and I took it most days and bombed it, and just to get focused. Do you mean? But yeah,
Yeah, I hear you. That's what used to happen with me in speed. It used to keep me up all night, but I'd get loads done. I remember just had to revise for this exam once, and I just up all night and I just crammed everything in because I'd taken some. So yeah, I don't know what it does to normal people.
yeah, no, it doesn't. It's the opposite effect, and I think we are the new normal. Though I don't know if I don't like saying we suffer from it anymore. I mean, I did when I was younger. The dyslexia is horrible because one, how can you spell dyslexia when you're dyslexic? It's such a hard word.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just can't get my words right, and my wife helps me with everything because yeah, she has to because you maybe know where I'm coming from. Because if she doesn't check things, I can't read it properly. I can't digest it properly. And it just does my head in. It makes me get stressed. And I cannot do stress, so I don't do it. And that's where I come from all nowadays. I've learned, I guess, through yoga. I had to do yoga because I'll cut a long story short, I had meningitis when I was a kid and they did a spinal tap and it went wrong. And by 18, 19, I couldn't walk, couldn't sit, couldn't stand, couldn't do anything. So doctors didn't believe me because they said you're too young to have a bad back. And then I was like, long story short, I had to end up doing yoga just to get my spine sort of a bit better and out of excruciating pain, which it was every single day for so many, probably over 25 years since I was 14. So often one there, a bit of a tangent ADHD special, but yeah, that's the long and short of it. I had it tough as a kid.
Yeah. No, you're not the only one who's. I mean, I speak about mine, and I've Cherry B on here talk about him. She's dyspraxic. Gypsy Lee Pistolero, he's ADHD. The guy from Amongst Strangers, they may be a band you guys could like play with Amongst Strangers. He was in Unfaintest Idea, but he's got an ADHD diagnosis as well, and he said the medications really helped him.
I had to stay away from the medication because it made me feel so strange that I tried all different levels of it, and yeah, I was actually because my wife and I were asked because I was the one that was the most ADHD adult they knew. They invited me to Maudsley Hospital to be part of this like team of people, all ADHD people, and yeah, it was a guy that came on it and said that don't do the medication because look at the state of the people when they're not on it, and those people were just freaking out, and I used to freak out when I wasn't on it, and when I couldn't get replacements, and he told me about the meditation, which I found out more about yoga, and I was like, okay, so I did do a bit of that. I've fallen out of it in the last couple of years because of the band and how busy it is, but it's funny how the word meditation is so close to medication.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's about slowing us down naturally, not being on drugs as much as I can. I'm not a straight edge guy, but I do my best not to take any more drugs anymore. But I did accidentally get into cocaine for 2 years. I spent all my money on it, and people were so concerned about me because they were saying, "Are you all right, Andy? Are you all right? You're awful quiet." And I was like, and for the first time in my whole life, I could actually think about what I was going to say on cocaine. So I never spoke because I was actually thinking first about what I was going to say. And I wondered if that's what normal people, inverted commas, closing commas, are like. But yeah, I had to stop doing cocaine because I asked the doctor if they could prescribe it and they were going to lock me up. The doctors were like, "Oh, but it really helps me. Cannabis really helped me. Could you prescribe it?" I think we're going to section you. Again.
Well, they used to put it in like soft drinks, in the cocaine back in the day.
It's with Coca-Cola. It's the name, Coke.
Yeah.
Maybe they should start again.
Yeah, they should do. For ADHD people only. We'd be buying all that.
I digress, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. I've got things to keep me on track as well when I go off on one, because I do it as well. So is it me, or were you in a band with Goss from Oi Polloi? Did I imagine that?
Not Gus from Oi Polloi. The bass player from Oi Polloi helped out on the last tour. In fact, it's because of him that I did the last tour. I had to think of who loved touring before I even organised the tour. It took me I put it in place 14 months before I even started working on it, and he was the first guy I asked, "Would you be up for doing it?" He lives in America. His name is Callum McKenzie, and he was in Oi Polloi for years, bass player. And I've known him for probably almost nearly 40 years, to be honest. But I knew that he loved touring. I knew that he was a die-hard tourer, and I asked him first, "Would you be up for being involved?" And he said, "Sure." And yeah. But that would be the Oi Polloi story. So,
now, how did you get in? How did you get in? How did you get into punk? You know, what started you off? What got you on the journey?
But believe it or not, I've just written about it yesterday. And if it wasn't for my beautiful wife who edited what I wrote, because I went off on one, I just wrote for a Stiff Little Fingers book by a guy called Ian Templeton. And I just told the story. My brother's 8 years older. I just spoke to him there. And like, he was an avid music fan. And I have to be honest, before 14, I'd lost all my memory before 14. So I know bits of it have come back thanks to sort of medication and psychedelic therapy. But I know for a fact that before punk, there was the glam rock, and there was the Who and the Small Faces and Kinks. But then one day my brother came back with a single, and it was called God Save the Queen. That would be 4 going on 5. So I got to know all those bands. I knew the Ramones and Iggy Pop and MC5 and the Kinks and Small Faces and the Who and Sweet. I loved Sweet before punk. Ballroom Blitz, I think, was punk. And Lou Reed was there, Television and all this. But then Sex Pistols happened, and I must have been probably getting on at the age of 5 years old, and loved the Clash, loved the Ramones, the Skids, all of these bands that were around in 77. But then I literally wrote about this, saying that I heard this music come from my brother's room. And I went through and I said, "Who's this?" And he said it was Stiff Little Fingers. And I was 6 years old. So yeah, I was 5 or 6 when I really got into it. And then I went to see them when I was 10. And yeah, I've never met anybody else that as young as me that was into it at 4 or 5 years old, back in the day, 76, 77. But yeah, I got into it then. And to be honest, I mean, like every day around about 85, 86, I was getting into the Pogues heavily. The Men That Couldn't Hang and more country Pogues. Obviously, Stiff Little Fingers still my mad favourite band, and loved the Scottish bands, the Skids, Exploited and all that. But there was a point where I was like not growing out, but I was still going around with my Heatons and Spikes as a teenager. I was the only punk in town. I was the only punk even in Glasgow. There was about 10 punks left, and all the other punks were like growing their dreadlocks and being fashion victims. And they used to call me Andy the Punk because I was still like fucking mad into my punk rock. And I also got into two-tone, but by default, really. I mean, I loved it. I really loved it. I saw the specials on TV. And I went, this is amazing, but something strange happened with the specials. The specials, I thought back in the day when I was a little kid, I thought they'd covered a Stiff Little Fingers song. And like so many people I've spoken to thought the same, because Stiff Little Fingers covered a special song but released it before the specials. So when the specials did their song called Doesn't Make It Alright, I thought they'd literally covered a Stiff Little Fingers song. So I went out the next day to the barbers and said, shave my hair off, you know. And I was like, I just got infatuated with the specials, to be honest. And I really, really thank them, because for the fact that I did not know that two-tone was original ska music either, until I was like, maybe even years later, where I was going matching it up, going, hold on, this is what? And then I got infatuated with it. I got obsessed with it, a bit like I did with Stiff Little Fingers. I got totally obsessed ska. And I was thinking, this is fantastic, because to me it's like the original dance music, and oh my God, it's this madness. Have covered all these songs, Prince Buster, and you know, it also confused me, because at a very young age we got these loyalists, sort of, don't like using the names, but they were fucking Nazis, basically. You mean fascists and Nazis? And I went up to him at a really young age and said to him, "Why are you dancing to this music? There's blacks in this band. Why are you slagging off black people and being like funny with black people?" I didn't even know the term racist, but then I was just really young and innocently asking these big massive Nazis, boneheads, like, "What are you doing? That doesn't make sense. You're a fucking idiot."
Yeah.
Do you mean not obviously not calling them an idiot to their face, because they'd have probably just stood on me. I was only like, I must have been about 10 or 11 years old. Do you mean? So at that age, I really got into two-tone, and I always wanted to be a skinhead, but didn't know it. I just was dressing like one, and I could never afford to be when I wasn't working class enough. I didn't have the money, but I always wanted to look like one. I was wearing my braces and my suits, and because of the Pogues as well, I was wearing my suits with my Mohican, and you know, and to be honest, to fast forward a little bit, when punk came back in the early, it never went out for me, but when it came back in the early 90s or mid-90s with Green Day and Offspring, and of course Rancid, I'd kind of known Lars through the UK subs, and he had a little thing with my sister and came to my house when he was in the UK subs, and I'd actually met him just about a month before in London, and we were both so pissed. Like, he came up, he was actually begging in the street saying, "I'm in the UK subs, can you help me with money?" And I was wearing my kilt and I was drinking all day and I was slaughtered. I had a ticket for the gig, Sham 69, X-ray specs, but I think he managed to get me in back doors. I was so drunk I can't remember. I doubt he can either, but yeah, I've never been out of punk. Well, to be honest, I won't lie. After the late 90s, I get really disillusioned with punk, and I get really disillusioned with Anarchy. And I decided one day to fuck it all off and try and sell out the band to like Epitaph Records and get a label that was bigger and try and make sell us out, basically. And that's probably the only time when I got out of it. I was just so disillusioned with what people were calling punk, and people calling themselves vegan, but then they're eating cheese sandwiches but on the sly, and it really fucked with my head. Words. I could believe that people are fashion. I saw that come and go all my life, you know, like 2-year punk and then they're normal and live their life like their parents did. But an ideology, I could never get around that idea that somebody could have an ideology like veganism, or on one tour in Ireland, it was the catchphrase was "It's not vegan." By these two American girls, one of them's passed away, God bless her soul, R.I.P. But there was her that said it the most, and she was actually going out with a guy, Calla, or one of them was going out with a guy, Calla from Oi Polloi, who was on tours in the same van. But we disappeared one day and came back. We all went to the pub, or tried to go to the pub in Dublin, and came back one day to find her eating a cheese sandwich, and I just went, what the fuck? Do you mean, like, if you're really vegan, then it's either for the animals or yourself or whatever reason, but to do it as a fashion? And I realised as well with the Anarchy thing was actually fashion, and it disturbed me. It's disturbed me to this day. That's where I think I stopped being political. In fact, I never was political. I never got into punk at 5 going, I'm a politic, or I'm into politics, or I never knew it was politics. I just knew what was right and what was wrong, like most people do, you mean? And that's why I say I'm not political anymore. I'm just, I'm anti-racist, obviously, but I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in words. I love words. And I'm on one you can tell my ADHD is coming out here. But to me, politics, well, I'm living in Italy, and I learned a bit of a thing called Latin. And the word poly actually means many, and the word ticks, well, we all know what ticks are. So why the fuck would I want to be interested in many ticks? Do you mean? Yeah. So anyway, I hope that's answered the question. What the main reason I don't do politics either is because it makes me angry. And once my wife said to me years ago, I've been with her for nearly 30 years, she said to me, nobody knows you're this angry, Andy. It's only you, look at your face. I can see myself now going all red, all hot, I have to take my top off. It's not you. And it's only because your childhood abuse that you're really angry. Do you not know that? It's not because you're angry with these people. It's because you're raped and burnt as a kid that you're angry. Do you mean? It's like, that kind of hit home, that hit a truth. And it's like, shit. And I went, you know what? You're right there. You know what I mean? So I try not to get too angry about things anymore because I'm naturally raging as it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's how I got into punk. It was actually punk was in me in the first place, like Eddie Cochran. You know, if Eddie Cochran wasn't punk, if the garage punk bands wasn't punk, if the Who, apart from Pete Townsend, obviously, if all that wasn't punk, then and the Small Faces and Kings, then I don't think I know what punk is, to be honest. And I just know what I am, and I just know what I want. I want unity. I just want unity with everybody, and that's it. I don't want to break it all down and then try and join it all up. Just unity, you know. We're all one race. We're all one human race. Different colours, different shapes, different sizes. But primarily, we all want the same thing, don't we? We all really need basic things, like maybe 5 basic things, you know, like shelter, fuel, a home, you know, a purpose, obviously music, and the biggest thing, love. I mean, but that's only like 5 or 6 things. It's not even 2 handfuls, it's 2 fistfuls, but worth fighting for. But what else do humans need? Do you mean? Sorry, I'm on one ADHD kid.
No, that's fine. I think that you said some really good stuff there. Yeah, you know, it is worth fighting for these things that you can count up on 2 hands. It's, you know, it's a really good way of putting that.
Thank you for relating. I was on one there.
Oh, I do it. Oh, you've not heard me go off on one. You probably don't want to at the moment. It's your time, not mine. But I was going to ask, right, what would you say was your proudest moment?
It would be supporting Rancid and Brixton Academy, probably that. Going on in front of just under 5,000 people and just getting to do it, and having people chase after us in the van. We couldn't get the van started. I don't really like people. I don't mean I get called antisocial. I also get called a fucking rock star because I don't like being around people before gigs or even after gigs because I'm getting my breath back. But I generally don't like people. I like animals. I love animals, not to eat, but you know, to speak for. But I don't really get on with people. So my experience was great supporting Rancid, but afterwards it was like 100 people around me trying to ask me stuff and it freaked me out. I couldn't get away in the van. I was like, but yeah, supporting Rancid, Brixton Academy and Glasgow Barrowlands, and probably that one tour of Out Come the Wolves in I think 96 or whenever it was in the 90s. Probably that. And also supporting Stiff Little Fingers, I guess. You know, like more than once, which I'd love to do again with this band.
That was with Ex-cathedra there.
Yeah. I was with the Ex-cathedra back, and I made the mistake of I went to see SLF over 200, maybe 250 times hitchhiking. I was a bit crazy with no money in my pocket. I had to beg up for chips or whatever, and asked to sleep in people's floors and whatever. But I was obsessed with Stiff Little Fingers and went everywhere with my thumb to every single gig from 88 to about 96, 97. Every single gig, apart from one in England. I went to Germany and Spain, everywhere. I once went to see them in London in 93 and I said to them about supporting UK subs, but I'd love to get to support the best punk band in the world, being a bit manipulative to Jake. And Jake said, well, I'll give you 20 minutes, Barrowlands next year. And I stupidly told my mates and said to the guitarist in the band, look, don't tell anybody, but Jake's offered us this gig. And then the next minute, everybody was laughing at me in all of Glasgow. Andy thinks he's supporting Stiff Little Fingers. I won't deny it, but it was the truth, and we did do it. And we did it more than once, and then we played a couple of times with them in England. Yeah, that was a very proud moment, because if you'd asked me at 6 years old, do you think you'll ever get to support these with your imaginary band, you know, the one you've got with your tennis rackets and singing it? I'd have thought you were mad, even though it'd be pretty rich of me saying so. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I was going to say, what's your biggest regret?
Biggest regret?
Yeah.
Funny you say that. I actually spoke about this to Nikki this morning. I said, you know what? I wish because we're going to the gym twice a week, having to go to the gym just to get a bit fitter for these gigs, because I realised I was exhausted after fucking half an hour. So I said to Nikki, I wish I did it at 17, but I said, I wish only for a few times. But I said, I wish I'd gone to this gym thing fucking when I was younger. Do you know? and that's it. I wish I was a bit fitter or younger. That was probably it. Like, I actually cared about my health. You mean, if you know what I mean? Because when we were kids, not even kids, even right through my 20s and 30s, I never thought once about the damage I was doing with the. I used to drink quite a lot, do you mean? But I never thought even once about it. I just did it.
Yeah.
So that regret of how much I shouldn't be here, you know. I shouldn't be actually alive, but I am. So I'm very thankful for it. But yeah, I wish I'd taken care of my health a little bit more, as I'd done maybe through my 20s and 30s and 40s.
Well, you did the yoga, so that was better than nothing, you know.
I had no choice but that. I had to do
Yeah.
that. I had to do that. Another A to Z of complementary therapies. I was a skeptic. I was a cynic. I was a young anarchist that didn't believe in God and everything else, all that. But I gave up in the Western world. The doctor said there's nothing you can do. The pain clinic said there's nothing to do. I was told I'll be in a wheelchair by 45. I'm 53 now. But I think if it wasn't for the A to Z of acupuncture right down to yoga and whatever it was, I tried every single thing just to get away from the excruciating pain, then I probably wouldn't be here now. I would have, yeah, I won't go there, but I would definitely not be here now if it wasn't for what I've done in the last 20 years. So.
Tell us everything, you know, like the visuals for Bullitz 23. Do you do that? Do you do the visuals, or do you get somebody to do it? Or
You mean the artwork? Or?
Yeah, the artwork, yeah. Oh, the artwork and the designs and.
I'm not going to lie, it's my ideas, but if I drew the ideas, then you'd probably send me to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because I draw like little matchsticks. But luckily, my wife is an artist. I came up with the idea of this. That was my idea.
Nice.
The little Jim Bones, and I'm not going to spoil the thing for the new art cover, but yeah, all the ideas are mine. And then Nikki helps me do it, and then another graphic artist helps her do the things with computers and all that to make it look a bit better. But yeah, I'm great with ideas. I mean, I'm fantastic with ideas, but I'm pretty useless at putting them into action. So yeah, but yeah, the visuals or the things are all my ideas. I'm good at something. If anybody needs anybody for good ideas, I'm looking for work.
Do you think that could be an ADHD thing, or just
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Well, I don't like saying we're different, or whatever, because we're all who we are. But there's definitely, I think there's a creativity there that other people. I'm really good with thinking sometimes, and I'm the slowest person ever. I'm like two people, a bit split personality. You mean? So I'm really slow in some things, like until I get it, and other things I'm like, what are we doing it this way? And because I'm so naturally, I think the meningitis left me really, really lazy, like mentally and physically. I work 24/7 with my band, and I'm having to do a little bit of work still as well before I hopefully go part-time with the band. But I have to think out of the box, or to me there is no box, but if there's a way of doing things more easily manually, then I will. Like on tour, I used to come up with the idea of the chain. Like that idea came from my dad, who showed he was in the army, in the military, and the guys would stand in a line, mostly mainly men in the army, or when he was in the Antarctic for a few years, and they'd get their deliveries, and instead of utilising all the energy by going up and down with whatever in the hands as much as they can carry, they just stood in a line and then passed it up, and then the men would move up the line and pass it up until the destination is reached. So it would conserve all the energy, but it was really quite fun as well. And we used to call it the chain. And it's great for roadie, and it's great for helping get the light stuff into the venue quickly if you trust everybody, and the band are there and the guys in the venue and there, and get everything in, and then it's left to the heavy equipment at the end, and it takes the weight. It means you don't have to carry anything in your spine or back hurts, and I don't know if that was a question or not, but yeah, sorry, again off on one.
No, you're fine. You know, we were talking about Punk Ben earlier. I don't want to take you to a sad place or anything, so stop me if I'm going there.
That's okay.
Could you tell us like your best memory of him?
We did go to a Pogues gig in London together once. That was good. That was great. We ended up back in my friend's flat, and we did a lot of Jack and Jill's back in the day. So, but yeah, probably going to the Pogues in London together with Ben. Yeah, I didn't know him that well. It was more my wife's friend, and like they were all from South End Essex. So probably the night going to Pogues, one of the crazy nights, drinking and taking what. So
So how do you know from Southend? So you'd know? Would you know Dave? Or he was called Dave DeVille, but he's Dave Divide now. Yeah, you know Dave.
absolutely, he was in Nukes. He was
Yeah.
in the Nuke. Yeah, he was also in Ex-cathedra for a bit, believe it or not.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's one of the greatest guitarists I know. He was actually in my band for like just a few gigs just before I was told to disband it by the old guitarist. So I would have kept going. I would have done a UK subs and just kept Ex-cathedra going and whatever. But Dave was was the last guitarist that I worked with.
He's a very, very good musician.
He's a genius. I asked him. I actually originally asked him before Triss. He was one of the other guys I asked. I said, "Look, are you up for this?" And he said yes, but he was too busy, and I think some other issues going on as well. But before I met Triss, I asked Dave DeVille.
Yeah. How did you meet Tristan anyway?
I'm glad you asked that, and it's a crazy one. Because I must have seen him somewhere, but I don't know where. When I was going back to visits to London, I made up some Bullitz 23 cards, and I was just handing them to everybody that looked punky and whatever. And I must have handed one to him because he brought it out like after I met him and said, "Look, I've seen you, I've met you before." So, but it was actually through the drummer who was through a guy called Nathan from Southampton who put me in touch with a drummer, then put me in touch with Triss, that put me in touch with Shay. So it's this punk family thing, which I absolutely love. We all know each other. If we don't, each other knows them.
Yeah.
So,
I think
which I think is really healthy. I think it's really healthy.
it's like it's a big world, but it's a small world, isn't it, with punk?
We're the biggest gang. We're the biggest gang in the world because, you could say the army or the cops are the biggest gang, but they hate each other. The cops hate each other because they're a bunch of, you know what I mean? So we're the biggest gang because if you think about it, it's not just us, it's our families, it's our friends, it's our cousins, it's all the... When I was back in the day, it was skinheads as well. We're in with the punks, so it was punks and skins. It was always punks and skins. And that's gone a bit divided now, but... if you take them on board as well as the air bits, as well as just the normal people that are in the punk as well, that didn't have spiky hair or meetings, that still were just like my big brother's friends. You would never say they were punks, but they were. I mean, back in the day, it was like buzzcocks, you'd never look at the buzzcocks or the undertones and say they're punks. They look like just plain Johns, or but they were. And it's a massive, and also the definition of punk, it's like the new wave stuff, like Elvis Costello. And when I grew up, it was Elvis Costello, the Police, it was Blondie, it was the Ramones, all the stuff that's homogenized now, and all Nick Lowe, Reckless Eric, all the stuff that you never hear of now. But that was the original punk, all the new wave stuff. And sorry, I'm on one again, but obviously, I'm realising now in hindsight, because I was in marketing for years as well, that they just marketed things. But it was all just the same thing. Like the Who were punk, the Small Faces were punk. It's anything that's something to say was all punk. So we are the biggest gang in the whole wide world. And you shouldn't fucking mix with us because we're the nicest people ever until you fuck with us. We are. It's so stupid. I mean, luckily there's a lot of assholes out, but there's one or two still there, and when people don't pay back loans or fucking rip other people off, or, I've got a few gripes, a few things I could complain about, and it's so stupid because everybody will find out. Because I can't stand people that rip other people off intentionally. If you're a drug addict or alcoholic or something that's going on, yeah, there's issues, and hopefully you'll get help, and I empathise with them deeply.
Yeah.
But when you're just continuously stealing from other people or ripping other people off, then it's so stupid. Because especially if you want to make a living or do punk as a job or do your band as a job, like some people do, then they ask you for a loan and then they don't pay it back. Then you're having to ask them for it back, and you're a cunt for doing that. Sorry, I shouldn't say that word. You're calling cancel that.
No, you're fine. You can swear on this show. I just put explicit on.
I'm having an experience with an Italian guy right now who asked me for a loan of €500, and because my mum had died, I couldn't really afford to give him €500, but I gave him €100, and it actually ended up costing me hundreds because I was going to use that money for merch, and I didn't have it, and I'm spending a whole year asking for it back, and he's just been a right bastard to me. And if he doesn't give it back to me before the end of the year, I'm just going to announce out in the Facebook, block this guy, cancel this guy, F him, fuck him. You don't do this to me. You don't do it to anybody. You don't steal from other people. I've got a crap memory, but if I haven't paid Tris for the money he's put up for stickers, he reminds me. And I say, Nick, can you help me PayPal? Because I can't do PayPal. I couldn't do this. When it went blank, I went, Nick, help Nick. I can't do I'm not going to lie. I'm not a Luddite. I mean, I'm not against technology. I'm against slavery like the real Luddites were, but I don't know how to work this. And then it stresses me out and it freaks me out, and I don't do freakouts anymore. I just go, Nick, help me, please. I'll help you do things. You help me with this thing. But I'm on a tangent again. But sorry, podcast. But yeah, we're the biggest gang. The punks are the biggest gang, and the beautiful thing about going to Rebellion this year was like I'd never met a lot of these new people. There's a whole new wave of generational younger punks. I know the ones from maybe 35, 40 years ago, and they know of me. But there's a whole new, it's never going to go away. In fact, I think punk's just getting started. I honestly do.
Because at one point I thought, around like late 90s, early 90s, I thought it was dying. I just felt like I was the only one going around with spiky hair still. And as you were saying about, everybody sort of started growing out their hair and stuff, and I thought it was dying, and then it sort of came back, didn't it? Although it hadn't really gone away for me, but it became a bit more out there, if you know what I mean.
I think it goes underground quite a bit, and I think it's just a natural thing now. It's just snowballed, but it can't go away now, because to me, I'm not at all religious. I'm from Scotland, so religion's a big massive thing. But to me, it's like the spirit of punk, and spirit is just an energy. It's an energy that cannot go away. Energy, even when we die, energy still goes on. Do you mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't end. It's scientifically proven. I'm into quantum physics, not religion, you mean? And even in quantum field theory, the particles there and not there simultaneously. So something that we can see is not there, and something we can't see is always there. And it's like punk, that's what punk is. It's the particle that is there and not there. Because many people you walk past the streets, I remember being in London one summer 10 years ago, and some normal guy just walked past me, looked normal, and said, wow, Rosillos. I was wearing a Rosillos t-shirt. He said, wow, Rosillos are back in fashion. And I just heard him say it, and I looked around and it was like, he just looked like them. But obviously, I mean, it's been around for a long time now. It's 50 years and next year of official punk. So, what is punk?
Yeah.
That's why I like wearing my suits, and I'm going a little bit losing my hair at top, but even if I could grow another Mohican, I'd never do it again, because I actually like looking the opposite of punk. I think that's what punk is. It's about questioning what punk is now, and I've still got anger issues. I realise that my wife says you're always looking for somebody to fight, not physically, but debate with. But I think it's sometimes healthy to debate and make other people think and say, what? And why are you telling me it's not? Because I tell you something, telling somebody it's not is the exact opposite of what it is. There you go. Yeah. It is what it isn't. Do you know what I mean?
I like that. It is what it isn't. Question everything.
Yeah, presume nothing and question everything. And I still make the mistake of presuming this and presuming that, and
So your top 3 all-time punk bands. You probably answered this in a roundabout way, but I'll put it out there.
Stiff Little Fingers, the Pogues, Rancid.
Why did I know you were going to say those 3? Well, you never know. You could have thrown a curveball and said, no, it's I don't know, the Slits and someone else, or you could have thrown a few curveballs there.
It was just bands. I really didn't like that many bands. I got a bit obsessed with the Ruts. I'm not going to lie. I got a bit obsessed with Ruts, and obviously the Ramones. The first band would be the Ramones, and I did a Ramones cover band, and but I was very young. But probably the Ruts would be up very close to it as well, and still very feel akin to Malcolm Owen and the anti-racist thing. And I just like people that stand up for other people. I don't care what other people are, but I do care when other people attack those people. That's when I've got an issue with it. But yeah, for me, I could list hundreds. I love the Skids. I mean, I've been into punk for 50 years, so I love a lot of bands, and I'm probably going away wishing I've got a Social Distortion tattoo, I've got my Rancid tattoo. Yeah, okay, I forgot the one there, Bullitz. I've got my Bullitz tattoo somewhere there. Bullitz were one of my favourite bands as a kid, and still now, you mean that one album, these early singles, I've still got 2 copies of them. Bullitz would come number 4 or 5, or Ruts, Social Distortion, it's a very hard one. I think favouritism is it's a very strange word as well, because I couldn't name you my favourite Stiff Little Finger song. That'd become stressful. I'd say I have a handful. I thank Tristan for bringing up one that, and I even asked him, why are you suggesting this one? This is an absurd one to suggest, like it's an unknown song, and I really appreciate it, because he actually got me back into Stiff Little Fingers a bit, because he suggested doing Back to Front, or whatever it is we're doing Back to Front by Stiff Little Fingers, and I fucking love that song, and it's a really good anti-racist fucking song, about whatever band, but yeah, the favourite stuff is a hard one to say, but push to shove, then, and I like to throw the Pogues in there, because people go, but the Pogues weren't punk, and I was like, well, you don't have a fucking clue what punk is then, do you? Because if Shane MacGowan wasn't punk rock, then, do you mean I got the wrong end of the stick?
Yeah.
And probably hit myself with it.
I've always thought of the Pogues as being punk. I don't.
Yeah. It's just the suits. If they haven't got spiky hair, or but then if there's a great example of what band, Motorhead. If Motorhead had spiky hair, do you mean if they hadn't had long hair? Do you mean if you tell me that Motorhead doesn't sound punk, then again I just haven't. Do you mean like so many bands that if they did the right, the Jam, the Jam were more punk than punk. Do you mean? They stayed the same, but people say, no, the Jam weren't punk, they were modern. The Jam were the most punk out of them all, because, they came on as they were, and they didn't deny their history, and they didn't deny they loved the Kinks and the Who, but they wore suits, and if you read Paul Weller's lyrics and listen to them live, that to me is punk rock, and if it's not, again, if I've got the wrong end of the stick, if it's not, but yeah, the Jam were right up there as one of my favourites as well. I tend to go through phases of bands, and I went back to them and forget about them, and then I go and get reminded of them. And I love being at Rebellion this year, because they played somebody DJ'd some stuff, and it was just like Sham 69 and Cockney Rejects and Cock Sparrow. And I wasn't allowed to like Cock Sparrow when I went to Europe. I was like, they're a Nazi band, they're right wing. Why do you like this band? I was like, I like the band, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't like this band. I'm like, what? But they're not right wing, they're not Nazis. Just because England belongs to, no, it's not a right wing song. Oh Jesus! But there's so much shit. I used to stop saying that I liked the band, do you mean? Because I couldn't be bored with the confrontation of it all.
You're in Italy at the moment, aren't you? So when you've come over to the UK recently over summer and you've seen all this flag stuff going on, what's going through your mind in regards to that?
To be honest, when I came back to the UK, I can't remember if it was the last time or the time before. I'm not by being naive, but we've not had TV for 25 years, and I avoided all of that. I actually didn't know how bad the war in Ukraine and Russia was, because I didn't see it until I saw it on TV. I was like, I was actually in Blackpool. I was like, oh my God, what the you know what I mean? So I haven't been there in Britain with all the flag stuff and whatever else, and I'm just like, okay, I don't really want to comment because I'm not there, but I just think, again, I feel that anger coming up from my guts. I'm very, I don't want to fight physically with it, but I'm anti-racist. I get quite,
yes,
how can I put it? I don't even think it's a political issue. It's just pathetic. It's fucking ridiculous. How can you have racism in the 21st? Sorry, it gets me too angry even to talk about, but I don't know if it's a racist thing or not, but I'm guessing it is. I like to try and put on both sides of things. I was surprised I had to get rid of so many people on my Facebook page. I ended up giving up. I was thinking, what the hell? What's this coming out with people that were supporting it? People were supporting. I'm not going to say politicians' names, but certain politicians. And I spent time unfriending them. I was going, oh God, this is taking ages. I don't have time for this. And I've just ignored it. But I'm doing my best to try and take both people's perspectives and go, what's this all about? For me, there's one flag and it's black, and that's it. So until they raise that one, I'm not a happy chap. I'm not an anarchist anymore, but I still believe in anarchy, because anarchy is love. And I'll debate anybody who's got otherwise to say. So until there's one flag and one flag only, and one race and one human race all getting on, then I'm not a happy chappy, because this is all my vision is. It's just, come on, guys, put away all your differences, find some common ground, stop fighting each other, because, we're not getting anywhere. This hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for 5 decades. We need to sort of come together and find out what your issue is. And for me, I'm like, to be honest, the far right, far left, when there's a left foot on top of your throat, whether it's coming from Labour or Conservative, it's still on top of your throat. It's still the boot that's top of your throat. And when there's violence from the far left and violence from the far right, I got attacked by Red London, was it Red? I can't remember what red group it was, but the group it was with, I was on the streets out looking for fucking Nazis in Glasgow to physically fight them. I was a different guy 30 years ago, 35 years ago. I believed it was self-defence. I don't have them beliefs anymore. My personal beliefs still anti this or against that, but I'm not going to go out and physically put my life in front of them anymore. I used to, but I'm in love now, so I won't do that to my wife, and I don't want to get hurt or die. But one time, it was a guy called Stevie Lee, if you're listening, Stevie Lee from Red Action, that's who it was, and they tried to kill me and my friend, and I had to shout back when he was starting to spray the CS gas in my face and come in with a truncheon into my skull. I had to jump back using a bit of my martial arts thing. I had to jump back, protecting me and myself. My friend bought a bottle to fight with him with. And I had to jump back shouting his name, Stevie, it's me, it's Andy, it's wee Andy. And he stopped and went, and I said, it's me, fucking what you doing? You know what I mean? But I've actually been nearly killed more by the Reds than I have by Nazis, fascists. You know what I mean? So I'm an ex-anarchist, but I'm aware of what the communists did to the Mexican anarchists, and I'm aware of what the communists did in the Spanish Civil War. So that's one reason why I'm not political, because if it's a fascist or a socialist, I used to be a socialist, but I don't believe in this thing anymore. But if it's a fascist or a communist or a Nazi or a fucking Marxist, and they're pointing a gun at me or trying to harm me, the end result's normally the same. It's violence, or it's death, or it's somebody getting hurt. So I'm against all extremes now. I think this is where the problem is this extremities. And could we not just bring it all together and go, look, maybe we need a bit of left and right. Maybe we just need a bit of balance, not being a boring centralist, but coming from somewhere all around. Could we not just agree and stop killing each other for fuck's sake, to start with? A bit of peace and love. I'm a hippie. I'm not going to deny it. I'm probably a hippie at heart. And I just want peace and I want love. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Without getting called racist. So many people are getting called racist nowadays and other names. It's just like, they're maybe not. They're maybe just mixed up. And I think even some people that are far right or even the fascists think that they're right. They think they're right in their head.
Do.
And then the anarchists and the anti-fascists think that they're right. So why don't they just communicate verbally instead of arguing and fighting and killing each other? And, just come to some kind of agreement. Maybe we could all have shelter. Maybe we could have a roof over our head. Maybe it'd be nice to have something to eat, even once a day. Maybe a life purpose and maybe some love. And, of course, some healthy punk rock, reggae and ska. With a bit of jazz thrown in. It's not going to hurt. Sorry, you might regret it knowing.
I don't regret anything. So tell us about some of the gigs you've got coming up and some of the other stuff you've got coming up with Bullitz 23.
Well, next year, probably due to finances, I won't be able to keep coming back and forth to UK, but I'm going to be doing it anyway. I don't see the point of doing what bands like the Meths have done, which I take my hat off and massive respect to them, but I don't see the point of me coming around UK to play to 10 people or 15 people a night. So I'm doing my best to play as many festivals as I can. Hopefully some 100 or 200 people might come to a festival, like rebellion, thousands of people. So doing my best to just do little festivals, big festivals next year, and maybe get to, we're going to Europe ideally just for 5 days, maybe just under a week. Just want to test the ground again. We haven't got a long enough set to do Europe properly, so probably be the year after next, 2027. But yeah, I'm writing enough material, enough for a set, and pray that we'll get to go to a recording studio and get enough money to record an album properly. We've not normally always just gone in and paid a very minimal amount and, never done anything properly. I'd actually like for once in my life just to do an album that, reminds me of the bands that I grew up with, just so that I can see. I'm not going to lie, I don't have anything else. I did before COVID, but now I don't have anything else. So I've got a few little things in the go, but hopefully enough to generate enough money just to keep doing this. But I'd like to make a living from it. I mean, I'm really against this, you're not allowed to have merchandise or you're not allowed to make money or what people say is, but you can't have business in punk. You know, the guy that said that has passed away, but he used to own a nightclub and rent property, and he'd run his own record label. And if he didn't make a business out of it, he used to play the same venues as the Exploited and make good fees. But how can you say no business in punk and then have business outside of punk? Because I don't see punk as a part-time thing. That's why the tour next year's called Part-Time Punks, you know, because how is it okay to make and this is speaking from people that I know are making the 80 to 100,000 a year, and you know, then go away and play their their weekend punk gigs or their little 2-week a year tour, and then but you can't make money being in a punk band. Well, of course you can. How can half these bands keep going? Stiff Little Finger, Stranglers, The Damned. Do you think they've all got some sort of trust fund? Do you think they've all got some kind of of course they've got to cover their arses. Of course the UK subs have got to make money. So for me, I'd like to make a living from doing this because I actually don't have anything else. Even if it just covers my bread and butter, then that's the plan eventually, to get out doing this full time as much as possible and get more than 20 gigs next year, maybe the year after, double that. And that would do me for time being. But I'm inspired by Wonk Unit and the NMFs and how they've worked really hard and gone out and managed to, they have to sell merchandise at quite a bit higher price than I would sell it for, but that's fair enough. And I stand up for them because it might be all they're doing. So they're not working for the man. They're not doing this. They're not, I'll be honest. I got offered talks with a major label, a massive major label, one of the biggest ones. And I would sign with them with an instant if I thought for a second I'd be doing a similar thing as Joe Strummer and Paul Weller from the Jam and getting my music out to the masses and ideally making people think and ideally having some kind of evolution from people's, transformation and thought and having some sort of awakening to some new ideas, do you mean? But I know for a fact if I signed to this major label that were interested in wanting to have talks with me, they would say further down the line, you're not commercial enough, we're not going to repress your record. And so when I go off and tour about, sorry, we don't have the record to sell because that big label won't repress it. So for me, it's better to work slowly, organically, grassroots, and find a really good punk rock label or one that I think is punk rock, and they will repress it and they will sell us some vinyl at a reasonable price so I can have a markup and help to pay for, to be honest, my dream is just to get a single room for myself, and it's not because I can't stand just other people, it's not just the reason, I have insomnia and I'd like to be able to sleep. And that's my dream, just to be able to afford to be able to make enough money to go pay the driver who does the tour managing and the merchandise and take all that away from the band, because that's one thing that splits bands up. Having a band member do the tour, having a band member that drives, having a band member that does the merchandise. That's how bands split up. I know because I've done it for 40 years. And to have somebody do all that, it's just beautiful because me, in my head, I've just got words, I've got music, and that's where I'm happiest. I've written about 20 songs so far, and I want to keep writing more. And when you've got somebody else to do the business side of things, because that was a massive mistake with Ex-cathedra, that's basically what split us up. The guitarist wanted to get a manager. He told me once that if he doesn't start making money, he's going to have to split the band. So that made me go into panic mode. That made me stressed out. At the time I was in college, I was going to open a vegan burger bar outside an alternative disco. That's what my college course was doing. That's what to be honest, I'd love to make a living from it, and I don't see anything wrong with having business in punk, because if you're not serious about it and actually have people who take care of the business, then the band end up doing business, or else they just split up because they can't afford to keep doing it. So for me, it's like, okay, we're only going to get a few hundred for a show next year, but hopefully that'll be 500 the year after. And if you can get to that magic 1,000, a show plus merchandise, then you can maybe keep touring. Maybe even keep the band going, maybe even have enough to pay for your bread and butter. So I've got no problem with it. I've probably only got a problem with other people that think it's a problem with it, but I'm happy to debate or fight them.
Do you know what? I think you need to do what you need to do. I think it's a personal thing, and I won't, begrudge or judge anybody for it making money from something you love doing, because we all need money. We've all got rent to pay, we've got bills to pay, and that ain't going to go away, is it?
It's also punk rock, just to do what you want. And when I'm getting on a bit of a grievance, why is it okay to be a punk rock driver or a punk rock tattooist or a punk rock merchandise person or a punk rock this or a punk rock that, but not for God forbid, don't make money from being in a band. That's not punk rock. Right off. Do you know what I mean? What do you want me to do? Keep playing. You know, like we did one gig in the last tour, and it was a benefit gig, and the guy said, "Look, it's a benefit gig." I said, "I don't mind. It's okay. It's the last night of the tour." And he said, "Yeah, it's only €150." I said, "Oh, okay, that's a bit shit, but okay. Hopefully, we'll sell some shirts and help get some of my money back." And then on the actual night of the tour, the person that ran it wasn't actually the organizer, but it was another organizer who got involved, said, "No, we decided we're not paying them 150, we're just going to pay them petrol money from the last place they played." But so they turned out giving us €70. And I'm like, you know, I've done this for 35 years, playing benefits and playing for nothing. And I think, why should we? The last DIY gig I did with Ex-cathedra in Ireland, I was told I'd get a certain amount of money. They didn't give me that, they gave me a lot less. So I paid to play. I'm like, how can you afford to keep paying to play? You know, it's great if you can. If it's a hobby for you, if punk rock's a hobby, fine. But it's not for me. It never was. I never understand how can you work 9 to 5, 5 days a week for the man, making good money. But I'll spike my hair for the weekend and dress in the right clothes and go out and play Saturday night. And maybe by Sunday I transform back into normal for normal life, Monday to late Friday evening when I become punk rock again. Fuck right off. Part-time punk to 2026. That's why it's called it. Having a go at the people that have a go at other people for doing what they fucking want.
Do you know, I'm just going thinking back to something you said about, you know, you want to record a proper album and do a proper set. What do you mean by that?
Well, like the studio that's going to cost me about 400 a day and accommodation, another 50 a room. So the one weekend's going to cost me over €1,000, €1,000. I could probably do it in Trissy's studio for a quarter of the price. And I'm not saying Trissy's studio's not going to be as good as this, but all the stuff I've ever done in the nut bands, even including Suicide Bid, it doesn't sound like the stuff on the radio. I want to get my stuff on the radio if it played. I want to be commercial. I want to be, to be honest, I want to be called a sellout. Because you know what? I haven't got any money. I don't come from money. I haven't got any fucking cash at all to me, and this is all I can do. Even sitting in a van's a bit sore with my spinal injury. It's a bit painful, but I do it sometimes. After a while, I end up with a limp, and it's a bit hard. But I can sit in a van. I can get up. In touring, you can do it's about 4 or 5 hours work, unless you get bigger. Then you have to do interviews and stuff like that. It's maybe sort of 5 or 6 hours work. But out of a whole day, you're only working like really literally a few hours, loading in, loading out, the gig, sound check, and blah blah blah. So it's, for me, it's the only thing I can do, and I want to have an album that you'd hear a song on the radio, but like the Rancid's last record, it's really simply done, but the production is fantastic. Do you mean, yeah, but, and people say to them, but you're not Rancid, but you're not Stiff Little Fingers, but you're not this, but you're not rich enough to do a studio like that. You're just scum, Andy. That's what they're saying, innit? But why not? Why then at this time when I have got a bit of money left? Why not record it properly? I'd love something to be left in my legacy out of my 40. I've been in punk bands for over 40 years, since 11 years old. Actually, over 40 years. And not once, the first album in Flamotiro was recorded with Frankie Stubbs. It sounded okay, and then it was sent back, and it sounded like shit. The second album we did demos, and I made tons of mistakes in it because the drummer and me knew it was just demos. I don't want to do the DIY forever because it's like, why? I just end up paying for everything. Or it end up being like breaking even. I also want a social evolution. I don't want a revolution, but I want a social evolution. And I'm writing about stuff that I pray or hope that will make people think in a different way. And in my lifetime, I'll see some social change. So I want to get out to as many people as I can. And I want to give something that I'm going to be really proud of. Like the last 2 recordings are probably the best recordings I've ever done. And they were done DIY. But I'd like to just, like the albums you buy of the bigger bands,
Yeah.
Rancid or whatever. And yeah, it's expensive studios because they've all got money, but why not? Just this once at least to see what happens with it.
You go for it. You've only got one shot at this, at life, let's do it. So any last words, anything before we wrap up? Anything you want to say?
Well, thanks very much to Tristan for getting us on. I hope these guys stay with me. Like you said, I like to keep a hold of them. If they can do it, great. If they can't, we get somebody else in until they can. I want to keep going. That's it, really. And really thank you immensely for giving me the opportunity. I apologise to everybody that's listening because I did drink a can of energy drink, Firo Mango. So if you cannot understand what I said, I apologise profusely. But I hope the message or the vibe got out there, and I hope I'm not taking the wrong way. But I just want peace, love, and understanding for humanity within my lifetime. I'm quite passionate about it. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Andy. Have a lovely day, and I'll contact you soon.
Thank you, Maria. God bless your soul. You're an angel. Thank you, and take care.
Bye. That was Andy Ray Keys from Bullitz 23. We were the Punk Rock Creators podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.